All right, we're live.
Perfect.
Welcome, everybody, to Delegate Solutions Expert Chat. And today I am chatting with Benj and Chris at System and Soul. We've been friends for a while now through the entrepreneurial community. And I just wanted to introduce them and the cool thing that they're working on so that we could learn a little bit more about what System and Soul is, why it came to be, and how it's different. So who'd like to start?
I will, thanks.
Yeah.
I'm fired up
The
this
fresh
morning.
one.
Yeah. So System and Soul, Chris and I have been business coaches. Chris a lot longer than I am. I just kind of more recently shook my entrepreneurial gene of starting companies and getting those off the ground, running them, passing them off to somebody else. But in that, I brought into that, I was a leader that led with a lot of soul. And it was about 8 years ago that I was introduced to like a framework that brought system into it. And now all these years later, it became like obvious, like there's all these system minded, like technicians that become entrepreneurs and they have systems in their business, but they lack soul, or these very soulful leaders that start business and they lack the system. But the system actually props up the soul, and the soul actually props up the system. So Chris and I created a framework that really elevates both of those in the conversation, packages them up in a way that we can bring those into an organization and accelerate the value creation and just the attractiveness of the organization. The system, we're blasting through how we create the value in the organization. You're going to create that value. We're just trying to shortcut it. And the soul is what makes you attractive to prospects and employees. Employees are so hard right now. There's a giant talent war. And if you don't have a soul about your business that's attractive to the right people, especially with this younger generation, they're going to go somewhere else really, really quick. So that's what we're about. We are on a mission to impact 25,000 companies, organizations by the end of this decade. So we're not going small on this one.
Very fun. So what's it like to work with you guys? Like, what does that look like from a consumer standpoint?
Oh, I thought you meant what is it like to sit in a room with us and see us beat the crap out of each other?
I got 3 words to answer that question for all of us internally at System Soul. We're fun, we're fearless, and we're flexible.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. We want to meet the entrepreneur where they're at in their journey, not necessarily force them one way or another. We want to meet them where they're at in the journey. Make a connection with them, introduce them to System and Soul to see if there's a fit, and then meet them where they're at. And an example of that could be, we meet with a legacy company. They've been around a long time, and they have core values, and they've had these core values, and they live the core values, right? We're good. That discovering core values is part of our journey, right? But if a company, we meet a company that's got the core values and people are living, they're using them as a filter, then we move on. We go with their core values, and then we go to create the habits that support those core values. And because our philosophy around culture, it's really simple, but it's based in a lot of research. But if you take your core values and add them to your habits, that equals your culture.
True.
And so it's really a fun way to approach it. We had a lot of fun when we did it with our S2 roadmap. We start with the answer first. Hey, what kind of culture do we want to have at this System and Soul startup, right? We throw a bunch of stuff up on the wall and we do the exercise, and we landed on fun, fearless, and flexible. And that really is a great cross section of me, Benj, and Mackenzie.
Yeah.
And just like any culture, it costs us something. We'll have some debate: should we do this or should we do that? And it's usually Chris that looks at us all and goes, "Guys, we got to go with the most flexible option here." Like he brings us back to that, and I appreciate every time he does that, even if I don't like the answer. What it looks like working with us from a client standpoint, we have 20 some coaches that are out there working with companies to bring them and launch them into System and Soul. We are in the final stages of producing a digital course. There's no way we're going to get to 25,000 coaches one at a time. So we've got a course that people can sign up for, and their senior leadership team can walk themselves through this process. And we're working on a book before the end of the year. So just a lot of resources. Any way that we can reduce the friction for organizations to embrace this movement of System and Soul.
So in an engagement standpoint, what does that look like? Are people like opting into a program? How does that part work?
Yeah, so the online course is just that. It's go at your own speed. You buy the course and it'll take you the whole way through it and be there for years to come. If you work with a coach, you're going to have 3 full day sessions within the first month.
Oh, wow.
And that's what we call launch. So it's a lot. You're breathing through a fire hose, but you're up and running. You're launched on System and Soul, and then you got to get your legs under you. You got to get the muscle memory, and we come back as coaches on a quarterly cadence. We do a look back, we fine tune, and then we look forward, reset what needs to be the priorities for that next quarter. We do the same thing on a big higher level at the annual. We do 2-day annual. Those actually look a little different depending on what coach fits with your with your company because of our flexibility. And we've got coaches that just have world-class experience, so they're bringing their own experience, their own tools, their own perspectives in, and that's really cool to see the community shape and all the sharing take place between the coaches. And I'm excited because I'm like the dumbest person in the room, Emily. So it's like super awesome. I get to learn from all these people.
So you
Well,
guys, given your core value of flexibility, are you doing this virtually? Are you going on site? How's that working?
yeah, so we live in a hybrid business environment right now. So again, we always fall back to meet the client where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
So if they want virtual because of the pandemic concerns or whatever, then we're going to go virtual. We're going to meet them where they're at and get them launched. We prefer, obviously, to get have them in the room with us, right? Because that's that human connection and energy that's a little not as easily replicated in a Zoom meeting, right? But virtual, on site, and we typically an engagement. There's kind of 3 phases to the engagement. Launch, like Benj described. Then we get into the growth phase where they start mastering the tools, and System and Soul starts to be a common language. And then in year 2, that's the growth phase, and that's really where they take off, where System and Soul is now part of their DNA.
So you guys are graduating people, companies?
We don't have like a formal graduation. We again, it's a 2-year journey to get it to your DNA. Clients absolutely can, once they've mastered it, they can take it and run with it. We'll always be here to support them. But if they've built a deep relationship, trusting, relationship with their coach, we're always going to make sure, as the owners of System and Soul, that our coaches have the tools to meet their clients where they're at, regardless of what phase they're in.
Yeah. I love the combo of System and Soul. I think that's a really insightful thing you guys have touched on. What if you're already running on an operating system? How does that work?
That's great. We get that a lot. And I think most of the frameworks that we get compared to are really heavy on the system side.
Mm-hmm.
Chris hates this phrase, but so I like to do soul conversions. So there's again, it's meeting the clients where they are. If they are rock solid, and we have a s2diagnostic.com, you can go and do a little diagnostic and see where you fall in both of those. Breaks it up into even smaller chunks, so you can see how you fit within the model. But if you're super strong on the system side and have kind of neglected or haven't known how to approach the soul side, then we can come in and bring some of those tools, those exercises, facilitate those, and kind of get you the best of both worlds.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I've got just this past week, 3 clients, 3 conversions from an old system to the new system in Seoul. And to Benj's point, the system side, there's a lot of great stuff out there, a lot of great tools, a lot of great systems. And we're the summary of all of those. And so from a transition standpoint, an org chart's an org chart, right?
Right.
So we don't make it difficult. We make it simple for the transition. The biggest part of a transition, I think, is really language, more so than anything else. And and that's not a hard barrier to come over during a quarter during that transition. This isn't, I come from a software background. This isn't like an IT cutover, right?
Right.
Where you have all these contingency plans. You got a team of 50 people, and you throw this. It's not like that at all. It's actually been going really smooth. So
I'm so happy for you guys. Who's a right fit client for you? What are you looking for ideally?
We're sort of our manifesto at System and Soul is the entrepreneur, and we all know the stats, right? They create 2/3 of the jobs in our country. And so for Benj and I, when we look at that, we look at those entrepreneurs, they're really the lifeblood of their community. And so we want to help them build a sustainable, profitable business that provides jobs to their local community, all the other benefits, right? And so, with our journey with launch, control, and growth, we really can take on a client any size. We're business agnostic. Could we help a startup? You betcha. Startups obviously have very limited budgets, but we've got programs to meet them where they're at, to at least get them some foundational tools to start. So anywhere along that journey, any client that's struggling, we can help. So I guess if you were to ask, like, well, Chris, what's your, that's pretty vague and wide. What's your target market? Small entrepreneurial businesses.
Entrepreneur-led,
Yeah,
entrepreneurial. Got it.
100%.
Mission driven. I
Yeah.
would imagine. Cool. So where do people go to learn more? And did I miss anything that you wanted to share that you think is important?
Well, they can go to systemandsoul.com and find everything there, including that S2 diagnostic, which has its own URL if you want to go there directly, s2diagnostic.com. Chris and I also have a podcast. We're talking that we go deep on a subject, or we'll have a subject matter expert who will come in, have chats about different things. We love that, including having you on our show. That was a great one. I love, if you haven't got the new workbook from Emily, go download that. That's spectacular.
Thank you.
What was your second? What did we miss? What did we miss, Chris?
Well, I'm excited. So I'm my role at System of Soul. I'm the head coach, head trainer, and I am happy to announce we have 2 international coaches now.
Ooh,
We have a coach. We have a coach in Romania and a coach in India.
wow, very exciting. Congrats.
Yeah, yes, that's exciting. So if anybody out there that loves to work with entrepreneurs, there's my plug. Call me.
Awesome. All right, so systemandsoul.com is the URL, yeah?
Yeah.
Awesome. And then you guys are the founders, so it's great to have you, and I'm so glad we got to share about the cool stuff you're working on. So thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. Bye.